Hi class, I'm Professor Crakes. Here we are, and I'm so glad that you are taking Personal Growth 130, Career and Life Planning. So this class is all about career and life planning, and what I've decided is to develop this presentation on the career exploration process, because during this session we're going to be doing different things that will lead to one's career exploration, right? So before we dive further into the session, I thought it would make more sense for me to go over what that career exploration process actually entails. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So essentially, class, there are 4 steps to the career exploration process. The first step is discovering oneself. So it's a process of self-assessment. Step 2 is exploration. Step 3, decision-making. And step 4, acting on it and evaluating your decision. Let's go in and start out with step 1. So what happens in step 1? So the first thing to do when thinking about, finding, or changing your career is taking the time to discover things about yourself. It is a time to focus and actually pay attention to you, and this is actually critical, and it's absolutely okay to do so. The type of things that you'd want to ask yourself would be, who am I? What are my abilities? What are my values? What are my interests? What experiences do I have? And what are my strengths, my skills, my weaknesses, my likes, my dislikes, so on and so forth. So it can be a quite extensive process that allows one to go through this process of self-discovery and self-assessment. So it's really important to take an honest look at oneself. So what type of information is designed to help with the self-assessment process? Well, there's career readiness. There's self-assessment through work interests, personality assessments, skills, and values assessments. And also, it's important for one to be able to explore the possibilities. If you're thinking about a certain career, well, what are you going to do about that? Well, you can do different searches. You can search an occupation by name. You can search according to the industry. And the Mesa College Career Center, through this link, has information on what can you do with a major in blank. What can you do with a major in psychology versus sociology versus business. What I highly recommend is for students to compare occupations associated with any major area of studies and compare them side by side. So go ahead and explore the occupations and then actually compare them side by side. So step 2 would be exploration, right? So when it comes to the second phase of the career exploration process, you explore careers through informational interviews and occupational profiles that actually match what you discovered about yourself. So in the first step, you are learning more about yourself. You're taking an honest look at yourself by taking these self-assessments. Well, step 2 is, now that you've discovered things about yourself, you're actually going to conduct an exploration process by looking at different careers and conducting informational interviews. Okay? So what is an occupational profile? Essentially, an occupational profile has a description of the following. There's a lot. Knowledge, skills, abilities, tasks, activities, tools, technology, environment, benefits, education, training, wages, trends, and related occupations. It just has a ton of information about that particular occupation. That's why it's called an occupational profile. So what type of information is designed to help with the exploration process? I have 2 pages of online resources that are available to you. So let's go ahead and go over them, guys. So here you have the California Career Cafe. It's a virtual career center. There's the Career One Stop, and you can do a search with all these information. It's got salary, benefits, education and training, so on and so forth. You can go to My Next Move. You can look at California Careers. You can look at Who Do You Want to Be? California Occupational Guides, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Occupational Outlook Handbook. This Occupational Outlook Handbook has always been my all-time favorite. I've used this time and time and again, so I'm so excited that it's available online for students. So you feel free to pause this presentation at any time and check out these links. Okay? Let's look at what's next. Okay, can you believe we're already at step 3, decision making? So let's see what happens here. Okay, so through discovery and exploration, you were able to identify options, right? So this time it's time to decide on actually which path you want to take. So remember, guys, this is not a marriage, right? Note that a student today will have at least 3 different careers and 10 different jobs over a lifetime. So a decision for now is not necessarily a decision for life. Do you know how many times an average college student changes his or her major? Okay, I'm going to tell you the answer. The average college student changes their major, or let's just say it's very typical for a college student to change their major up to 7 times. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So ask yourself, which major or occupational area seems to be the best fit based on the previous step, based on all the things that you learned about yourself, based on the exploration process, the informational interview, and the research that you conducted. Now, does the major or projected plan of study need to be altered? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And are there internships or other ways to gain valuable experience in the area? And if so, I really recommend that. It's important to gain relevant and recent experience in the field. So people will be making decisions, right? What type of factors influence one's ability to make decision? Well, number 1 is one's decision-making experience. So the confidence in decision-making abilities comes from having made successful decisions in the past. Second would be personal factors. Are you actually receiving support and influence from family and friends? You can consider how your options are actually compatible with your values, interests, and abilities. And what are the number of desirable options? Some are more willing to sacrifice appealing options because they're more focused on the attractive options. So it's kind of like the whole thing of pros and cons, looking at the advantages and the disadvantages of a particular decision. And also it's important to note that different people have various decision-making styles. It all depends on the weight of the decision. How important is it? Some use what's called a planned decision-making process, meaning there's a balance between logical reasoning and intuition. And there are some who make decisions based on emotions. When faced with time constraints and when decisions are not of great importance, then you could actually make decisions based on emotions. Okie doke, can you believe we're on step 4 already? This is where you act on it. Okay, it's evaluating your decision and actually taking action. So the act step of the career process is where you can actually plan and implement your career goals. This is really the exciting part because this is the step where you actually choose your major based on your career decision. You don't have to, but I recommend that you meet with a counselor to discuss your goals because we can talk to you about that and develop an educational plan and help take you a step closer to your long-term career and educational goals. Things you can ask yourself. Are classes, an internship, or professional experiences enjoyable? Are grades improving or remaining at an acceptable level? And has motivation improved? I get really excited when students come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened, Professor Crakes, because I feel like I'm a totally new person. I've come up with a major, I love what I'm doing, I'm enjoying my classes, and I'm on top of all the assignments and the reading material in class, and I'm getting good grades. Because motivation is intrinsic. It's not one of those that you could just try to have. You either have it or you don't. And in order to have it, people tend to have motivation when they're actually getting to the place where they want to be, and it feels good to be there, right? And so my hope for all of you guys is to get to the point where you have that motivation. And to those who already have that level of motivation, more power to you. I'm really happy for you. Okay, so now that you've gone through all 4 steps, right, what can you do? Well, it's time to formulate some goals. And what I really hope for you is to develop goals based on the SMART concept. Are your goals specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic, and time-bound? So what's specific mean? Okay, let's go over this. Good performance goals are specific. The common mistake in setting specific goals is stating an outcome rather than specific achievement in order to produce that outcome. So for example, stating become a better person in 200 times is an outcome. But what's needed is a specific achievement that result in someone becoming a better salesperson. So in the process of setting and achieving goals, the first step is to make sure that the goals are specific. That's really important. Okay, M is measurable. So some career newbies find this to be really difficult to do because not all goals are actually measurable. It's really hard. But based on your experience, a majority of good performance goals will have measurable results. So think hard about this step. Sometimes it's a matter of looking at it from another perspective or another angle. So think about the goal's intention, and that actually may help you craft your goal differently. So attainable. So goals that are challenging, yet achievable and attainable actually builds self-esteem, hence confidence. So that can result in more responsibilities and rewards. So some people are of the opinion that goals should be impossible to achieve, yet others make the mistake of making it easily achievable. These goals are not good as they aren't very motivating for you and your manager. So be courageous enough to set realistic and challenging goals that you alone or with the cooperation of your colleagues and other people can achieve. Remember, it's not about setting and achieving goals. You're not setting this alone. So this is just an example of goals that you're setting for yourself versus goals that you're setting at work. You got to think about how does this pertain to what you want to do. Make it attainable. Realistic. So realistic goals are challenging and attainable within the given time frame. Okay, so that's really important. You don't want to make it too difficult or too easy that you lose motivation and you lose sight of the goal. And lastly, time bound. So you always want to provide a time frame when your meaningful and motivating goals will be achieved. So let's look at the beginning of the presentation. We went over step 1, discovery and self-assessment. Step 2, exploration. Step 3, decision making. And step 4, acting, evaluating the decision. Afterwards, we talk about the importance of setting goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation on the career exploration process, and I look forward to seeing you online. Goodbye, everyone.